Hey, so today I read Romans 11 through 16. And 11 picks up where the previous chapters drop off thematically, which is Israel being rejected and the Gentiles being grafted in. And Paul starts with, are they without hope, the Israelites? And he's all, no way, I'm an Israelite. But the fact is that they've rejected God. And so God grafted in these wild olive branches into the olive tree and then has a warning saying, listen, if God was willing to break off the original olive branch and graft in the new, then God is willing and able to also break off the grafted in branch. And he says in chapter 11, verse 22, behold, both the severity and the kindness of the Lord. And so in that, we see both of those, right? That God requires humility before him and submission to him in our lives. But then also that God graciously and compassionately gives us mercy and blessings when we are humble and when we do walk in His ways. And then so chapter 12 is really of Romans is really I'd say a summary of how the church, big C, ought to behave and how believers, the body of Christ, ought to engage with one another. Chapters 13, 14, and 15 then are really deep dives into some of that. How we are to show love to one another in both our strengths and weaknesses, how we are to obey our governing authorities in the Lord. And it's just such a richness, those chapters, of just how we are to live out our Christian lives among each other. So here's the thing that was interesting to me is, the previous chapters talked a lot about the law and comparing the law to grace. And the idea there was that our lives are to be lived out in such a way that honors the Lord. Well, in chapters 12 through the end of the letter, chapter 16, it gives us a new dimension of that and talks about how our lives are to be lived out in a way that creates peace and love for one another, meaning the body of Christ, right? And so we still need to live humble and holy lives before the Lord, but we also need to live humble and holy lives within each other, within the context of our own relationships. And that was kind of the takeaway that I got from these last few chapters of Paul's letter to the Romans.